I know y'all been waiting on this one. So we're back with episode 19 of What If Goku Was Raised by Frieza. And in this episode, Prince Vegeta takes over the planet Earth. So let's find out how, shall we? So in the last episode, Yamcha becomes an android to get his revenge on Kakarot for taking Bulma away from him and his eyes, and challenges the Saiyan to combat, while Zarbon faces off against Cyborg 16, and Dodoria faces off against the genius Dr. Gero. Kakarot learns that Yamcha has gained the ability to absorb energy with his hands, which even increases his strength output in his battle, which eventually gives him the upper hand until Bulma intervenes. Yamcha then sends a spirit ball in her direction, planning to maneuver the attack in the process to avoid her. But the action triggers Kakarot to transform into the Super Saiyan 2 transformation, which shocks the Desert Bandit. After a while, Zarbon defeats Cyborg 16 and Dodoria takes off Dr. Gero's head, and Kakarot defeats Yamcha, getting in close to threaten Yamcha with an energy sword, something the android could not absorb. And on another planet, Vegeta reveals himself once more with a newer look as he announces his plan to overthrow Emperor Kakarot. And that's the end of the recap. Which brings us back to today's episode, where the Prince of All Saiyans pays the world a visit. So let's begin. Gero arrives to see the removed head, Jivo arrives to see the removed head of his father, Gero, who was left there by Dodoria because he thought he ended him, but the doctor was still alive in critical condition, as he told his son that they must regroup to try again. Jivo looks down at his father as he replays the events of this battle, realizing that he is only still alive because Kakarot's son Bardock spared his life from the hand of his guardian Zarbon, showing him that aliens are also capable of showing mercy. It is then that the giant makes his decision and reaches down to pick up the head of his defeated father. Jivo arrives at Capsule Corp to Bulma's surprise, who chastises 16 for helping Gero in his coup against Kakarot, and the cyborg apologizes sincerely. He then reveals the living head of his father to the Blue Net by rolling his head to her feet. Bulma looks down sad at the state Gero was currently in, knowing he was once a friend and colleague. And Jivo asks Bulma to keep Gero's head somewhere secure, hooked to some sort of life support system to ensure he will not cause any more trouble to the Earth and its inhabitants. Afterwards, Jivo begins his exit, and Bulma tells the Green Giant to keep in touch, and she might even give him some upgrades in the future. And Jivo simply smiles as he flies off. Kui is left petrified and in disbelief at the fact that he was left alive in his reunion with Prince Vegeta, who just left the planet Namek, planning to challenge Kakarot. He looks around to see the villagers are fine, so he fidgets with his scouter, hoping to warn headquarters about the coming of Vegeta. However, he only hears nothing but static on the other end, which rattles his nerves, and he wonders why no one is responding from the mothership. Kakarot looks on angrily at the damaged ship that sits before him. He verbally assaults his subordinate Dodoria for recklessly fighting Dr. Gero so close to the mothership, which ended up causing so many damages that he will be paying off with Dodoria's salary. Zarbon interrupts his rant and tells Kakarot that the communications have been destroyed in the battle, so they cannot contact his soldiers off-world for the time being, which frustrates Kakarot even further. Meanwhile, Vegeta travels through space on course for the Earth in his thoughts of the past. In the recesses of his mind, we begin a flashback of events. Vegeta remembers being bested by Kakarot all those years ago on the brink of death. And after Vegeta told Kakarot Frieza was the one that destroyed their home planet, and Raditz told Kakarot that their parents meant to send Kakarot off-world to the planet Earth to get him away from Frieza, they were surprised that Kakarot allowed them to live, and he allowed them to leave the planet alive. And this is what happened after that very day. Vegeta and Raditz had become nameless bounty hunters, and when they were free, Vegeta would beat on Raditz to toughen them up and increase both of their power levels, so they could one day avenge the Saiyan race from Frieza and Vegeta could rule in his stead. Until one day the pair sat on a backwater planet, laying low in wait for a new bounty contract. That is until both of their Saiyan pods started broadcasting a message to the pair to their surprise. It was on that day that Vegeta got to see a Super Saiyan Kakarot holding the severed head of their former Lord Frieza in his hands as he announced to every Frieza ship about his victory and that he would now be the new emperor of the universe from now on. Radix was left dumbfounded by the announcement and couldn't believe that his very own brother had become the Super Saiyan of legend to defeat the great Lord Frieza. Vegeta was left enraged and told Radix he was holding him back from getting obtaining true strength to the long-haired Saiyan's surprise at the outburst. After that day, Vegeta decided to go solo and vowed to take the throne from Kakarot someday, and Radix looked on into the sky with a sense of pride in his brother who had become a Super Saiyan that avenged his family and race. Some years later, Vegeta had been training his body non-stop to become a Super Saiyan, but the prince was still unsuccessful in his endeavor. Vegeta's mind was haunted by the appearance of a Super Saiyan Kakarot constantly, and he wondered how he had been left in the dust by a low-class warrior that used to be Frieza's loyal pet. He thought back to the day his Ozaru transformation battled Kakarot in his Akari form, until Vegeta finally got an idea. Maybe he needed to get his tail back somehow. Maybe that's the key for him to truly get stronger in his own way. So the prince headed to a genetics lab owned by the deceased King Cole in search of some assistance. Vegeta approaches Cole's scientists, who were surprised he was even alive, and even more surprised he was approaching them. But the Saiyan promised to spare them if they assisted him in regaining his tail. Eventually, the scientists created a solution that would be the trick and injected the serum directly into Vegeta's bloodstream. The experiment was a success, and Vegeta can feel his tail regrowing itself rapidly. Vegeta is happy with the result and cannot wait to train himself in his Ozaru form, hoping he will have a breakthrough in his progress of achieving Super Saiyan as the scientist hands him back his armor. The prince desires to surpass Kakarot by becoming one with the beast within himself. And eventually he is successful in his mission, and he might have even discovered something greater along the way. The flashbacks fade as Vegeta realizes that he has finally arrived to the planet Earth, as he looks down with anticipation. Kakarot watches his son Bardock train in the gravity vest he had Bulma make for their son as he struggles to adjust to the prototype vest, impressing his father in the process. But the performance is interrupted by Bulma, who asks Kakarot to help her move some machines around with his strength so she can get back to work on her time machine that Dr. Gero had destroyed in the previous episode. Once Kakarot goes inside, Bardock briefly continues his training until he is interrupted by the arrival of Prince Vegeta, who smiles down before saying, "It would seem Kakarot has been busy on this world." And Bardock is confused by the remarks and wonders who this mysterious man is. Vegeta then tells young Bardock to come at him with all his strength so he can see the potential of a Saiyan hybrid, and the boy steps up to the challenge. Kakarot stops in his tracks, and Bulma picks up on his uneasiness and asks her husband what's wrong, and the Saiyan simply says to her that he senses an old rival's reemergence from his past life. Bardock pants in frustration when he realizes how strong this mystery Saiyan really is. Then they both look down to see the arrival of a new competitor. Kakarot makes his presence known, and Vegeta compliments the Emperor on the potential of his son, but Kakarot is not happy to see his old rival in the slightest. Vegeta descends down, and Kakarot ascends up, and the pair meet in the middle. As Vegeta removes his cape in anticipation, Kakarot simply asks Vegeta why he's here, and the prince bluntly tells him that he has come to usurp the throne from his low-class adversary. The two grin in excitement as their Saiyan blood begins to boil. They flare up their auras, ready to battle. And then they rush each other for combat, cutting through the air like missiles as they speed blitz. going across the earth as their fists connect, shaking their surroundings every time their blows collide. Kakarot crashes down as Vegeta narrowly avoids his downward strike that caused him to sink into the earth like a drill. Vegeta takes advantage of this opportunity and charges a blast at the sunken Kakarot, ready to end the battle before it even really began, and the Saiyan can see the danger he is in. The area is enveloped in red energy as the blast connects with the ground, incinerating the entire island like chaff for a fire. But as the dust clears, Kakarot is left unscathed from the attack because he had used his instant transmission to avoid the destruction. Then Vegeta decides to turn their battle up a notch as he forms a power ball in his hand, to Kakarot's surprise as he sees the prince's new tail moving in the wind. Kakarot watches the prince grow in size as the Ozaru he once battled long ago re-emerges for revenge. Kakarot's black eyes once again become yellow as he goes back to his Akari transformation, ready to continue the fight. Vegeta breaks the earth with his might, wanting the ground to swallow up Kakarot like a fish. But the warrior leaps into the air with ease, avoiding the seismic event. But the attack was a diversion, and Vegeta throws a boulder at Kakarot, which catches him off guard and sends him into a mountain. And before the Emperor can recover, Ozaru Vegeta launches a mouth blast at Kakarot as a follow-up. And the warrior is forced to counter the blast with a death cannon of his own. And the blasts disintegrate everything in the area before canceling each other out in a massive explosion that rattles the world. Purple steam escapes the mouth of Ozaru Vegeta as Kakarot takes the lead in transforming this time and begins to transform into a Super Saiyan. Kakarot smirks in this moment, believing that he has shown Vegeta the obvious difference in their powers now in his new state. That is until the Ozaru in front of him begins to glow yellow as well. And now suddenly, to his surprise, Vegeta's state has evolved into a golden Ozaru. Both of their eyes narrow as they prep for round 3, waiting on the other to make the first move. The golden Ozaru seems to be faster than he looks and blitzes Kakarot, who narrowly avoids being trampled as roadkill for the yellow great ape. Barely avoiding the charging behemoth, Kakarot is eventually backed into a corner, and Vegeta sees an opportunity to squash his enemy like a bug. So he raises his foot and Kakarot crosses his arms defensively. The Super Saiyan flares up his aura just in time to become a Super Saiyan 2 to escape those size 50 white boots. And Ozaru Vegeta is surprised by his opponent's second progression. The duo charges each other again, ready to continue the skirmish, crumbling the entire area beside them with every connecting strike. Kakarot wonders how he can defeat this Goliath, and Vegeta suddenly grunts out a bestial laugh to his opponent's surprise. Vegeta glows a brighter yellow and begins to shrink, to the Ascended Saiyan's surprise, wondering what the hell is going on now. Vegeta has transformed into what we know as Super Saiyan 4, but for this story, Vegeta named his transformation Super Saiyan Beast. Also, let me know if y'all rock with the name in the comments below of this new form. Vegeta's yellow glow has donned the shade of red as he glares at his shaken up opponent, ready to end this battle once and for all. Vegeta vanishes forward confidently, and Kakarot can barely even track the Super Saiyan Beast's movements. In desperation, he crosses his arms, again anticipating a punch to the face incoming. But instead, the fist meets his gut, causing blood to spew from his mouth. And after his guard is broken, Vegeta follows through with a haymaker to the Ascended Saiyan's face, sending him crashing to the ground. Kakarot lands on the ground, completely overwhelmed, and Vegeta charges up his final attack. "It's time to welcome you to oblivion, Kakarot," Vegeta says, ready to blow the Saiyan away. But his attack is interrupted by a newly transformed Bardock Briefs, who broke his limits and became a Super Saiyan in a desperate and angry attempt to save his father, who was in danger when he arrived. Beast Vegeta is impressed by this feat as he turns to face his attacker, interested in the potential of this young Saiyan hybrid, who has ascended to a Super Saiyan. Vegeta then vanishes from sight and knocks the son of Kakarot unconscious in one punch to his gut. Vegeta turns around and remembers all those years ago when Kakarot let Raditz and himself escape and comes up with a change of plans. Vegeta offers Kakarot a way out to return the favor for all those years ago, so he calls his Saiyan pod to them, knowing he won't need it anymore since he's planning on taking over the Earth now. Kakarot crawls into the pod, not wanting to squander his opportunity of survival by giving Vegeta any type of second thoughts. And the pod blasts off into space to an unknown location that Kakarot punched in. And Bulma watches the night approach as the sun goes down, wondering what has been going on and what has taken Kakarot and Bardock so long to return. And that's where we're going to end this episode today, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Out.